Right, good evening and welcome to this GCSE exam workshop. My name is Holly Kingmand and I will be leading today's workshop looking at how ambition is presented in Macbeth. And so I'm still letting people in from the breakout rooms. And we will be practicing our analytical writing skills as well. This is a free workshop for everybody to come and take part in, years 9, 10, 11, all exam boards. And whilst there are so many of you live this evening, there are far fewer of you that usually come to the workshop. So they're slightly different. Josh, I would really appreciate if you didn't scribble all over the screen. And I'm just going to pause the workshop whilst I remove you. Okay, thank you for your patience, everybody. So yes, if you wouldn't mind not scribbling all over the screen, that would be much appreciated. So as I was saying, these workshops, normally there's a smaller group, there's around 20 to 30. So if you don't get your questions all answered today during the session, then please put it down to the fact that there are now 78 of you in the workshop. So the exam workshop will be structured like this. The first part, we will look at the assessment objectives for the GCSE exam. Then we'll move on to looking at your responses to the pre-workshop task. And then we will look at an example essay, and we will essentially, we'll mark it, we'll be examiners. And then finally, we will do some preparation for the post-workshop task, which is an exam task, an exam writing task that you can do afterwards. Your mics are set to off. Your videos can be on or off, but they're not part of the recording. The chat box is interactive. You can ask me questions, share your ideas. I'll relay your ideas back to the whole group. And we will have some breakout rooms as well, where you'll get to go into a smaller group and share your ideas together. So by the end of this workshop, you will have reflected on the exam's assessment objectives, you will have explored how ambition is presented in the play, and you will have practiced writing about Macbeth and ambition in an analytical and developed way. Now, the first part of the session, of course, is the assessment objectives. So what you can see on the screen at the moment are the assessment objectives as set out by the government. This comes from a government document that is given to exam boards, all of the exam boards, and that's where you can see the percentage marks down the side of how much of each assessment objective should make up the marks within the exam. Why it's quite broad, so 35 to 40% of marks should be allocated to AO1, for example. And that's because exam boards will make up their minds about exactly how many marks to give for each of these things, but every single exam board will have AO1, AO2, AO3 and AO4 as described here. If you're thinking, what are these assessment objectives? Don't worry. We're going to really get to grips with them today. So AO1 is essentially your personal response. So it's how well you know the text, the quotes that you know, the textual references that you can make. AO2 is where you analyze language, form and structure. So that's where you try and explain effects and explore connotations and use subject terminology. AO3 is the context, so that's the social, cultural and historical context of Macbeth or any play that you're looking at. And AO4 is accurate spelling, punctuation and grammar, so it's your accuracy. We are not going to focus on AO4 today, not because it's not important, but because we've got 1 hour. We're going to focus on the Macbeth specific things. And if that's an area you need to work on, then you can improve on that in your own time. So in summary, these are the assessment objectives. Now, as I go through these, you are very welcome to take a photograph of the screen so you can use it for revision in the future. That's absolutely fine. So AO1 is your informed personal response. AO2 is the analysis of language, form and structure. AO3 is the context. And AO4 is your accuracy, spelling, punctuation, and grammar, and quality of writing. Now, which of these do you find easiest and most difficult for Macbeth? So I'd like you to let me know in the chat box. So you might be somebody that thinks, well, you know, I know the play really well, so AO1 would be my strength, but actually I don't really understand the social, cultural, and historical context. So that would be my challenge. Okay, Bella says probably AO2. Is that your easiest or hardest, Bella? Nathaniel, AO4 easy, AO3 hard. Okay. Holly says AO2 hard. Lots of you are saying AO4 is your easiest, which is really good. You must be excellent writers. Okay, there's a really wide mix across you all. Abe says AO2 is very confusing for Macbeth. Well, it might have been up until now. Hopefully today's workshop will set you on a more confident course. Archie says AO2 easy, AO4 hard. Okay, right. Really good to see that you've all got quite good understanding of where your own strengths and weaknesses are. And actually, that's a really good way of planning your revision for the future. So if you know that AO2 is your area of weakness, then you can focus in on that in your revision. Okay, good. So we're going to move on to the pre-workshop task. Hopefully you've had a chance to do this. It shouldn't have taken more than 30 minutes. Let's see how you got on. So the first task was to analyse this quote. If chance will have me king, why chance may crown me without my stir. So let me know in the chat box, what did you note down on your sheet? You might have written an analytical paragraph, or you might have just bullet pointed a few ideas, or you might have annotated a few words. What did you make of this quote? Oh, Steve, very good about the link to kingship. Lots of you are talking about the repetition of chance, which is good. Oh, Ethan says the personification of chance, suggesting that chance has the power to make him king. That's a lovely idea. Amy says dramatic irony. The audience knows he will create a stir. Well done, Bella. Well done, Heath. Oh, stir connotes chaos and disorder. Prisha says it shows the ambition and desperation for the crown. Excellent. Lots of a real nice mix of ideas in there. And I'm glad to see so many of you are using subject terminology in your comments. So here is a short analytical paragraph. Now, I've color-coded where it links in with the assessment objectives, because I think that's a really important thing to do when you're preparing for exams, thinking about how what you are writing, how that meets the assessment objectives. And if you're writing something beautiful, but it doesn't actually hit AO1 or AO2 or 3 or 4, then it's almost pointless, isn't it? So after hearing the prophecy of the witches, Macbeth first says, If chance will have me king, why chance may crown me without my stir, which means he believes that if it is his fate, then it will happen without him having to do anything. The repetition of the verb chance might suggest that fate is more powerful than ambition. This is an all right answer. It has some subject terminology. So the word verb, the repetition. Actually, it's a noun in that sentence, isn't it? It's not very deep and developed. You could go a bit further. Let's look at the next one and see how deep and developed we can go with that. A student was asked how Macbeth's ambition changes, and this was part of their answer. As the play continues, Macbeth's vaulting ambition grows until it o'erleaps itself. The image is also reminiscent of the great chain of being and Macbeth's willingness to overleap his natural position in the hierarchy of life, resulting in Duncan's eventual death. Okay, how could you extend this paragraph to show a deeper analysis or the effect on the reader? Okay. You might develop an idea that's already there. You might add something onto the end of the paragraph. You can share in the chat box any ideas you might have had. You might have written something like a paragraph or part of a paragraph, or you might have just jotted down some bullet points. Lots of excellent ideas in the chat box. If you're a little bit unsure, or even if you've got a great idea yourself, it's really good to have a look through the chat box and see everybody's ideas, how they're all manifesting. When they go quite quickly in the chat box, I always have this crazy moment of trying to read everybody's ideas. Let's see, Anya says, as the play goes on, his ambition develops to the point where he becomes tyrannical. You could say his ambition is his hamasha, his fatal flaw. Excellent. Yeah, using the word hamasha is great. It's that, subject terminology for tragedy, isn't it? Brilliant. Okay. Oh, Lena had a good idea then, and it's just whizzed past me. Amelia says it could be argued that Macbeth's ambition changes as a result of his actions and Lady Macbeth's constant emasculating and pressuring with pejoratives to reach her own ambition, her one fell purpose. Amelia, that's a great idea. And actually, that will put you in really good stead for the post-workshop task, because that's about Lady Macbeth's ambition. So there's a good idea there. Okay, Louis says you could talk about another part of the play and show the change. I wonder what part of the play you would pick, Louis. Oh, Moyen. Hello, Moyen. His ambition empowers him to change his state of mind. Lady Macbeth's desire is patronize Macbeth as she underestimates his power. She is very patronizing, isn't she? Good, Prisha. Good, Bella. Lots of good ideas. Well, it progresses due to Lady Macbeth's transgression of gender boundaries and her desire to be powerful. I wonder if you could support that with a quote, because there are lots of good ones you could use for that. Right. Here we go. Here is a student's answer. And we can have a look at the qualities that are within their answer. And of course, like before, I've color-coded them. As the play continues, Macbeth's vaulting ambition grows until it o'erleaps itself. The verb vaulting especially compounds his intemperate ambition, since it It is richly suggestive of power and aggression. If one vaults over something, one leaps strongly, which indicates the desperation Macbeth feels to be king. This image is also reminiscent of the great chain of being and Macbeth's willingness to overleap his natural position in the hierarchy of life, with the result of this being the eventual death of Duncan, the paragon of virtue. Thus, Shakespeare again warns the audience of the consequences of Macbeth's fatal flaw, his hamartia. And you can see it's color coded. There's a little nod to the wider context in the middle there, but the wider context in this one is not necessarily well used to prove the student's point, which is really important. It's with AO3 we do want to drop in all of that really good information, but it has to be used in a way that it's really strongly supporting the point that you're making. Nice quote, Anya. Anya says, "And chastise the valour of my tongue," as a quote for Lady Macbeth and her desire to be powerful. Smashing. Right, and just a reminder again that my top tip for students aiming for a mid-grade, if you're aiming for a higher grade, you're probably doing this already, but whenever you introduce a quote, use subject terminology as part of your introduction. So the verb vaulting. Oh, good answer, Ollie. Oh, and Ollie mentions Jacobean society as well. So that's a good way of introducing AO3 into your answer. Yeah, excellent. Unsex me here, Steve. Well done. Okay, on to pre-workshop task number 3. A student was asked how Macbeth's ambition is a fatal flaw, and this was part of their answer. Shakespeare further presses upon the fatal flaw of excessive ambition at various points in the play, a typical feature of the tragic genre. Upon seeing the witches for the first time, he is described as rapt withal. How could you extend this paragraph to show deeper analysis or the effect on the reader? So you can let me know in the chat box the bullet points you made or what you wrote, whether you improved on what was there or whether you wrote another paragraph. Let's see what you've got. Nice, Ellis. Very good. Your answers are all coming too quick, everybody. Ellis says it proves no matter the consequences, he will still aim for the power. That's good. Amy says, hello, Amy. His determination, along with the blackmailing persuasion from Lady Macbeth, leads him to strive for the potentially unrealistic prophecies and kills to become king. Oh, Grace says it gives connotations that Macbeth is entranced and totally absorbed by the witches, portraying how Macbeth is weak and gives into temptation. I love that description of him being entranced. Lovely. Becky says rapt suggests he is completely fascinated by the witches, even though they are evil and supernatural. Yeah, almost like that sort of morbid fascination because, witches were, not very popular at the time. Yeah, good point, Becky. Evie says Shakespeare used ambition as Macbeth's fatal flaw to prove that although he is succumbed to his flaw, he was once a man who had a conscience and boundaries, and how your decisions can be swayed by the one you look to for help. Yeah, it's almost like a warning, isn't it? If you've typed your answer into the chat box, make sure you read other people's answers as well, because that's a really good way of learning, and just seeing how people are writing about their ideas as well. There's some really well structured analysis in your answers. Oh, a base is it makes the audience feel wrapped with all. Oh gosh, that's zoomed past now. Let me find it. And we feel like they have been controlled and absorbed by the witches. This is a writer's purpose, as he's in control on how we think and feel about Macbeth. Ah, so you're saying that we are sort of drawn in and controlled by their prophecies. Interesting perspective. Might need a little bit more explanation on that one. Oh, that's a nice AO3 comment. You could liken his temptation to the biblical representation of Adam and Eve and the Jacobean audience's familiarity with the story. You're not wrong, but that is quite an assertion. I mean, the idea of temptation you can tie across to the biblical representation. Is there any? There probably is, and I've just completely, lost it. But are there any quotes that support that? There is Lady Macbeth with the apple, isn't there? Anya says the great chain of being and how the king was chosen by God to go against this was frowned upon by the Jacobean society. His greed for power that drives him. Dramatic irony. Good. Nice to see so many of you working in your AO3 wider context comments. And for the most part, you all seem to be using them really well. So using them in a way that supports the point you're making. Cushy says Rapt shows his obsession to make this prophecy come true through his ambition, which becomes one of his fatal flaws, which hint at his vulnerability as well. Good. Okay, lots of really good answers there. Let's see what our imaginary student came up with for task 3. At various points in the play, Shakespeare further presses upon the fatal flaw, a typical feature in the tragic genre. Upon seeing the witches for the first time, for example, he is described as being rapt withal. Shakespeare's adjective rapt highlights the way in which Macbeth is instantly captivated and indeed corrupted by his ambition. He is enthralled and so, unlike Banquo, cannot see the witches for what they are. Now, I'm also going to, once again, for the final time, I promise, draw your attention to the use of the word adjective. Even the simplest words, if we're using the subject terminology when we're able to syntactically, when we're introducing a quote, it's just another little tick for the examiner that you're using the correct subject terminology. And you can see there it's color-coded. We've got a response, so we've got, the students' own ideas coming through. There's a little nod to AO3, and there's, a good bit of analysis there. And you can see actually their analysis is much stronger in the improved version. Who says that? Gerald. Good question. The blue part in the answer, how is that context? So anything to do with the social, cultural and historical context, and talking about different genres that were popular at the time or that the author was well known for, that would fall into context. And the audience would have understood the tragedy, getting tongue-tied now, the genre of tragedy. And they would expect certain features when they've gone to see a tragedy. And of course, as many of you will know, at the time, if patrons went to the Globe Theatre to see a play, they might not know what play they're going to see, but they would know whether it was a comedy or a tragedy because of the colour flag that would be displayed outside. So they would know what to expect. So it would impact the audience experience. AJ says that about the serpent and the flower. That's the quote that I had in my head for Lady Macbeth and the apple. It wasn't an apple, it was a serpent. And that's why I could vaguely link it to temptation. Really good. And really nice to see that you're all sharing ideas with each other in the chat box. And I know there are many of you here who have been to my workshops before, but for those of you that haven't, we do share ideas with each other and answer each other's questions in the chat box. Right, we're going to move on to part three of our workshop, an example essay. So hopefully you've got this printed, or you might just have it on another screen in front of you. You will need this, your example essay for this part of the workshop. So what we like to do in this part of the workshop is read over an essay and really think not just about what its strengths and weaknesses are, but also to specifically look for examples of AO1, AO2 and AO3, because those are the things you need to be including in your essay to get the marks you need to get the grade that you deserve. So that's what we're trying to really hone in on. I can see from the chat box you can all write really well and you've got lots of great ideas, but we do need to make sure we are hitting the assessment objectives. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes now to skim read over it and see if you can pick out some examples of AO1, AO2, AO3. And what we will do in a few minutes' time, we will have a breakout room where you can share your ideas with each other. If you've forgotten what AO1 and AO2 really involve, AO1 is your personal and critical response, and that includes quotes and how well you know the play. And AO2 is your analysis of language, form and structure, but also the subject terminology that you're using as well to identify and explain effects. I love that Steve, Abay and Kushi all got in there to answer one of your questions in the chat box quicker than I did. Excellent. Okay. Don't worry if you're still skim reading through the essay. Everyone's working at their own pace. And as a reminder, we've got year 9s, year 10s and year 11s in the workshop today. all of different abilities, all having learnt about Macbeth from different teachers all across the country, and in fact in different countries. So there's a big range amongst us. So if you haven't quite finished, don't worry. So I'd like you to jot down on your sheet somewhere or in the chat box or both, which assessment objective is this essay's strength and which is its weakness. So the weakness is the one that they'll need to improve if they want to boost their marks. So now that you've annotated it and picked out some examples, maybe you've gone, oh, there's lots and lots of AO2, but it's not very much AO3. Or maybe there's lots of AO3, but AO1 sounds like they don't really understand the play very well. Do your best to work out the strengths and weaknesses. Okay, I think it seems like generally you're all in agreement in the chat box, which is fantastic. It means we're all on the same page. No one is wildly off. What we're going to do now is have a quick breakout room. There'll probably be between 5 and 7 of you in each breakout room. What I would like you to do in the breakout room is just share the examples, the good examples of AO1, AO2, AO3 that you found in the essay. And we all seem to be in general agreement about the strengths and weaknesses, but you could touch base with everybody in your group and check that you all agree. Don't worry, Holly. AO1 is not really how it makes the reader feel. AO1 is how well they know the story, how well they know quotes, and whether they have like opinions and ideas on it. And the effect on the reader is more AO2. Okay, I'm going to open up the breakout rooms. We'll have 2 minutes in them, and then we'll come back. We'll look at the examiner's feedback on the essay, see if it matches what you guys have come up with, and then we'll move on to the post-workshop task planning. Hello, right, welcome back from your breakout rooms. If you'd like to share in the chat box, maybe something that came up in your discussions in your breakout room, or anything to do with your feedback that you would give to this student. I noticed that Anya says it doesn't analyze a quote as a whole, rather just words or word phrases. That's not a major problem, except I can see what you're saying. Some of the great quotes from Macbeth are in a longer quote, and it would be shame to miss out on those, wouldn't it? Paul says, my group very much agreed on it needing more context, AO3, within the response. They could have linked it to the time period or the historical event. Yeah, it severely lacks AO3, doesn't it? Neve says, for context, it could refer to evil earlier in the play when they say all good is evil and all evil is good. Yep. And a biblical reference. Good. Prisha, that's quite a good point as well. It says there are not many specific terminology except verbs when analysing. It talks about verbs a lot, and I can't think of any off the top of my head, but it does talk about other things, but more broad, sort of a structural subject terminology is used, things like contrasts, things like that. So there are some others, but I can see what you're saying. Verb is used quite a lot, isn't it? Yeah, really good, AJ. AJ says, could talk about how Macduff is Macbeth's foil, so develop on characters. Yeah, and you don't have to always just focus on Macbeth or Lady Macbeth. There are a lot of great characters. For any of you that came to my Macbeth workshop in September, the post-workshop task was specifically asking about other characters. I think it was a post-workshop task. And everyone had a mild panic because everyone was so focused on Macbeth and Lady Macbeth and didn't actually have much practice of thinking outside the box about how the other characters are so crucial in the narrative. So it's definitely worth dedicating some time to revising that. Because she says, I'm not sure who said it, but someone in my group said that there was a good linking to other parts of the play, for example, Brave and Valiant, which they used to show contrast. Yes, Cushy, really good, and well done to whoever said that in your group. Certainly linking to various points in the play is really important. If you are on AQA, and I think EdExcel as well, you'll get given an excerpt from the play, and you'll need to write about that and other parts of the play. And I know some exam boards don't give you that point to focus on, but it is important, if you do have that extract to base your idea around, that you still have to reference other things that happen in the play, not just that one bit. So you can't focus all in on it. Aleda and Paul both think that AO4 is very good. Yeah, I agree. It's exceptionally well written and accurate. Kushi, that's a good question, and we will come to that shortly, so I don't want to talk about it just yet. Okay, here's the examiner feedback, and I've color-coded it to help you link their feedback with the assessment objectives. So the examiner says, this is a critical, well-considered response that uses a range of quotations and textual references. Remember, quotations and textual references are different things, aren't they? Quotes are words lifted from the text, whereas textual references are when you talk about different things that happen in the play. And they are really important to develop and analyse ideas. The answer is based on their personal knowledge and interpretation of the play, AO1, and they have explored the relationship between language and meaning. Subject terminology is used accurately and usefully to support concise analysis. Yeah, and maybe that links in with, I'm not sure who said it, but someone said about there being embedding one words or phrases rather than longer quotes. So it's very concise, the analysis, isn't it? There are very brief mentions of womanhood, regicide, and the great chain of being, but none of these are explored in a way that supports the points they are making. Absolutely, and that's what you all said. So congratulations, you all can give yourself a pat on the back for that. If AO3 is an area that you would, it sounds like lots of you have got it completely under control in the chat box, but if AO3 is an area that you'd like to improve on, I am holding another exam workshop. I have them every week, but the one on the 3rd of March is specifically about the wider context of Shakespeare's plays and how to integrate that knowledge into your essays to maximise your AO3 marks. There's actually one the following week on an Inspector Calls wider context as well. So if that's something that you might find useful as you get closer to your exams, then you're welcome to book a ticket and join me for that. So we're going to move on to the post-workshop task. You might have this printed in front of you, maybe, or on another screen. If not, don't worry too much. I'll have what you need on the screen. So I've chosen to give you a post-workshop task in the style of AQA and Edexcel, whereby you're given part of the play, a section of the play, and then a question to follow it. I put a ring around the question bit just to draw your attention to that. So starting with this extract, explain how far you think Shakespeare presents Lady Macbeth as an ambitious woman with influence over her husband. And then it gives you 2 suggestions of things that you might write about. I think Lady Macbeth questions are the easiest questions to tackle because there are so many different things you can say, and she's a great character. And in fact, the free workshop that I did last year was about Lady Macbeth, and it turned out to be the exam question for AQA. So everybody who came last year to that free workshop did some great preparation for their exam. So I'm hoping that maybe this year ambition will be the exam question. I can say 2 years in a row I've delivered a free workshop that the exam question is based on. We will see. Right, so in summary, this is the question. Now you can see it says write about how Shakespeare presents Lady Macbeth in this extract. So you'll need to write about that, about the extract. If you can't remember any quotes in the exam or you're completely flummoxed, you've got that section that you can focus on for the bulk of your close analysis. And then how Shakespeare presents Lady Macbeth in the play as a whole. And then you can think more broadly, and you can talk about other points in the play where she's done things that present her as ambitious with influence, or not as ambitious without influence. If you're really aiming for the top grades, you know, being contrary is a great way of being critical in your writing. So I'd like everybody to bullet point 3 ideas that they might write about in response to this question. If you are in year 9 or year 10 or even year 11, but maybe if Macbeth isn't your strong point, you can just give some vague bullet points. If you're in year 11 or you're really, really on top of your Macbeth game, then you can put quotes and some ideas about how you might analyse them to answer this question. So I'll leave it up to you what you are going to put in your 3 bullet points. And then we'll have a breakout room where you can share your ideas. And when you share your ideas, you can furiously make notes on all the ideas of everybody else in your breakout room. And you can obviously use those in your planning for your post-workshop task as well. Hi, Honey. Lovely to have you here. I didn't realise you were here. Um, Honey says she breaks the stereotypical woman of the Jacobean era. She questions her husband's masculinity and belittles him. So yeah, that would be a great idea for a paragraph. And also, you made some suggestions of what AO3 points you might make to support your idea. So well done. That's good. Ellis, you've made a good point. Ellis says she understands not only what causes him to act, but also how to manipulate their situation and control him. So yeah, it's very much the case that she has an incredible mind, doesn't she? She really can read situations and she understands Macbeth. She's very able to control him. So that's a really good point. Yeah, Abe's talking about subverting gender stereotypes. Okay, I'm going to open up the breakout rooms now because you're all sharing awesome ideas in the chat box. If anybody's a bit stuck, I would be taking lots of photographs of all of the great comments in the chat box. And share these ideas in the breakout rooms. Have a good chat about them. Right, you'll be with different people this time. I'm going to recreate the groups. We will take 2 minutes again, so I'll close the breakout rooms after 1 minute, and then you get 1 minute remaining before you're automatically returned to the main room. Okay. Okay, we're just waiting for everybody to be back from the breakout room. But whilst we're waiting, if you've got any further ideas that you'd like to share en masse with the group, then you can pop them into the chat box. Okay, right, that looks like it's everybody back from the breakout room. Good news. Right. So I expect you've all got lots of fabulous ideas that you've shared with each other, and you've got some notes and some bullet points, and you could probably head off into answering that task with lots of information and quotes, which is great. If you are a bit stuck, or you want any additional ideas. There are some suggestions on the screen now. I'm just going to suggest that you take a photograph if you're a bit stuck for ideas. So you could talk about Lady Macbeth's ambition, that it appears unchecked, that she willingly seeks evil to aid her, and also unsex me, all of that, calling the spirits, that whole section of the play. Macbeth is subordinate to his wife, so the power dynamic between them. And as many of you have said, that she emasculates him and belittles him as well. She's not very nice, is she? And she continues psychologically manipulating Macbeth by insisting, the quote is there, but, insisting that if he did what she wants him to do, then, she would consider him more of a man. She's just belittling him. Steve says, Lady Macbeth is my favourite character. She's awful, but I think she might be my favourite character too. I just wish she was a real person, because I would love to, I'd love to meet her. I would probably be terrified though. Matilda says Macbeth had already been thinking about how his prophecy could come true before Lady Macbeth ever got the letter, so she only partly influenced him. He already wanted to kill Duncan, so it wasn't only her idea, so she didn't influence him totally. Matilda, that would be a really good argument for the fact that she doesn't have that total influence over him. Maybe that she's an opportunist. The opportunity arose and she went for it. She, went all in. And like I said, those of you that are aiming for the top grades, you will, provide ideas and evidence that she is and isn't presented as ambitious, and does influence and doesn't really influence. So having, alternative views is a strong thing for the top grades. Okay, now we just have a quick revisiting of what your essay should look like. So someone mentioned one of these questions a little bit earlier on, and asked, what should you include in the essay? How much time should you spend on the extract? How much on the other points in the play? Here are some answers for you. So your essay should include an introduction, but I always say an introductory sentence in the first paragraph is sufficient. You can introduce your idea and dive straight in. You don't need an introductory paragraph that says, this play was written by William Shakespeare. You don't need that. You're wasting your time. Skip that, get stuck straight in. That would be my suggestion. And at least one paragraph exploring the given extract. And if you are aiming for top grades, then 2 or more paragraphs focusing on what is in the extract, what's happening in it, how the characters are interacting, how it answers the question, and so on. And then at least 2 paragraphs, or 3 or more, exploring different ideas from other points in the play, other things that happen, other quotes, other interactions, and so on. And Steve says, I dressed up as her for Halloween because she's a girl boss. And I love that. But I'm thinking, is Steve your dad? So how long should you spend on it? 30 to 40 minutes, depending on your exam board. That's something you'll need to probably check with your teacher, because we've got a full range of exam boards here. And there's some of you that will get extra time allowance for your exams. So I can't give you a specific answer on that. Megan says, do we have to link the extract to other parts of the play as a whole, or do separate paragraphs for the extract and the play as a whole? Yeah, you dedicate like an idea per paragraph that you'd explore deeply in the paragraph. And what's in the extract and the other points in the play that you talk about will both be linked to the question. So if the question is about how loyalty is presented in the play, you'll have an extract where there'll be loyalty or disloyalty for you to write about, and then you'll have to talk about loyalty at other points in the play. So, you know, whatever the theme or the topic of the question is, that will link together whatever it is you write about. Anya, is there foundation and higher in English? That doesn't, I don't think there are any exam boards for English that still do that. I'm pretty sure for English, it's just for everyone. Yeah, everyone's saying there isn't. Well, for your exam boards, there won't be, but there are countless different exam boards. Everyone's saying no. So I would say if everybody's saying no, then at least none of the exam boards that are represented in here tonight do that. How should you finish? With a short conclusion that summarizes what you have discussed and a final thought that answers the question. Just make sure that last line brings what you've been writing and your ideas back round to the topic of your essay. It ties a nice bow around what you've written. And actually, I think that contributes to AO4 because it's how you put together an essay. Megan, no, unfortunately, I don't do workshops for DNA. I will show you my upcoming workshops in a moment. DNA is great, though. Maybe I'll do one on DNA next year, although that might not help you if you're year 11. Sorry. Okay, so what next? Complete the post-workshop task in your own time. Might be a bit late to do it now. Email it to me if you would like light feedback. Light feedback involves me giving you 4 to 6 comments, and at least 2 of those are constructive to suggest how you could improve your work for the future. So it's not deeply marked, but I'm happy to give feedback on any essays that you do in relation to this workshop. If you've got any questions, you can ask me in the chat box. And I've got another Macbeth workshop next week, actually. I've got 2 Macbeths in a row. And of course, the Shakespeare wider context workshop in March. And I know it's Black Friday coming up. I have Colour Friday and a discount code for my website for 10% off everything on my website is CF41. So you're welcome to give that to your adult for 10% off. And it's not just exam workshops. I have a regular class and exam practice groups and all sorts. These are the upcoming workshops before Christmas. Like I said, I have them every Monday during term time. All different texts are covered: unseen poetry, creative writing, power and conflict, love and relationships. Yeah, lots of different ones. I love them all. Right, I'm going to have a quick look to see if there are any questions. And then, yeah, DNA can be for English as well, depending on your exam board. And I don't do one for the Crucible either, but I probably should, Anya. When will I do poetry? I can't remember off the top of my head, but if you go to my website, English with Holly, where it says book courses or book classes, there's a list of everything in order. Oh, Christmas Carol coming up soon. I've got one on the 16th. Maybe you can come to that, daughter of Steve Buckley. You're very welcome, Archie. You're welcome, Holly. Excellent. I'm glad to hear you've all really enjoyed it. It's been absolutely lovely working with you all this evening. I wish you all the very best in your exams. And I hope to see you in another workshop again soon, like I said, with a smaller group, so I can answer your questions a little bit more readily when there aren't 80 of you. Have a lovely evening.